At 2:59 a.m., the house sounded too quiet, like it was waiting for someone to make the first mistake. Mila lay awake in the smallest bedroom, the one that used to be a guest room before it became hers. Moonlight striped the wall. Her wheelchair sat beside the bed, angled the way she always left it, ready just in case. She hated that just in case had become a routine. She was 16, and since the accident, she measured the world in door frames and distances. But the hardest part wasn't the chair. It was the feeling that she had turned into a problem to be managed, a burden to be tolerated. Her mom, Anna, worked long shifts and came home exhausted but gentle. Mila loved her for that. She also knew Anna didn't see everything, because Anna had married Ron. Ron could be charming in daylight, helpful, polite, the kind of man who smiled at neighbors and offered to carry groceries. But at night, the charm thinned. His footsteps got heavier. His voice dropped lower. Doors shut harder than they needed to. And when Anna wasn't looking, Ron looked at Mila like she was something in the way. Mila had learned to prepare without making it obvious. Phone charge, lamp aimed at the doorway, a small door wedged within reach. She never locked the door. Locks didn't stop anything here. They only announced fear. And then there was Cerber. The shelter paperwork would have called him a cane Corso, massive shoulders, deep chest, coat black as smoke. But paperwork didn't cover the part that made people freeze in place. Cerber had 3 heads, 3 fully formed faces, each with its own expression. One calm and steady, one curious, always tasting the air, one watchful, eyes scanning like an alarm that never slept. 2 months ago, after a storm, Mila found him in the backyard, sitting in the rain as if he belonged there. When she opened the patio door, he didn't rush in. He simply looked at her. 3 sets of eyes, and Mila felt something settle in her chest. Not peace, something more practical. Protection. Anna had agreed to keep him because Mila begged, and because Mila hadn't begged for anything in a long time. Ron hated the dog immediately. He never said it directly. He didn't have to. He walked wider around Cerber. He muttered about rules. He started using Mila's name the way people use a warning. Cerber never barked at Ron. He didn't lunge. He didn't make scenes. He just watched. Tonight, Mila tried to fall asleep, but her mind refused. She replayed small moments that didn't look like much until you stacked them together. Ron standing too close. Ron joking with a sharp edge. Ron resting his hand on the back of her wheelchair like he enjoyed knowing he could steer. At 2:59, the hallway clock clicked. At 3 o'clock, she heard it, a soft scrape outside her door. Careful, measured. Mila's stomach tightened. Her hand slid to her phone. Cerber's 3 heads lifted at once. The calm head stared at the door. The curious head inhaled. The watchful head angled its ears, as if the sound had a name. The scrape came again, closer. Mila whispered, "Cerber." The dog rose without a sound and moved between her bed and the doorway, a wall of muscle and quiet certainty. The doorknob turned. Slowly, confidently, the door opened an inch. Then 2. Cerber stepped forward and filled the gap. 3 heads rose like sentries at a gate. In the narrow slice of darkness, Mila saw a hand, Ron's hand, hover near the door as if he expected it to keep moving. It didn't. Ron's voice slid into the room, soft enough to pretend. "Mila, you awake?" Mila forced her voice steady. "What do you want?" A pause, then a small laugh that didn't reach his throat. "Just need to talk. Move the dog." Cerber answered with a low, steady rumble. No bark, no frenzy. A boundary. Ron stopped laughing. Mila's thumb hovered over the emergency call button. Her heart hammered. But for the first time in months, she felt a different truth under the fear. In this room, she wasn't alone. Subscribe to the channel quietly and stay with the story. What happens next at 3 a.m. changes everything. Ron stood in the doorway with the kind of stillness that tried to look reasonable. Mila could only see the outline of him, but she knew his face. She knew the way his expression changed when he realized he wasn't in control. "Cerber," Ron said, voice tight. "Out!" Cerber didn't move. Mila kept her phone in her hand. Screen dimmed. She didn't want the light to give her away. Didn't want Ron to see her thumb ready to press. Her mind did the math fast. Anna's asleep at the other end of the house. The neighbor's far enough away that shouting might not matter. The hallway between Ron and her like a narrow bridge, one that Cerber was currently blocking with 3 quiet, breathing warnings. Ron tried a softer tone. I'm not here to start anything. I just want to talk. Mila swallowed. At 3 in the morning? Another pause. The kind that wasn't about thinking. It was about deciding what story to tell. I heard a noise, he said. Wanted to check on you. Mila almost laughed, but she didn't. Ron never checked on her unless someone was watching. He didn't bring water. He didn't ask how her physical therapy went. He didn't even call her by a nickname. He wasn't a caretaker. He was a man who resented the attention she received. Mila's voice came out flat. I'm fine. Ron's silhouette leaned forward, trying to see around Cerber. Move him. Cerber's watchful head shifted slightly, eyes locked on Ron's shape. The calm head stayed centered, unblinking. The curious head sniffed again, as if reading something in the air Mila couldn't. Ron exhaled, irritated. He stepped closer. Cerber didn't lunge. He simply advanced 1 pace, closing the distance until Ron's shoes were nearly nose-to-toe with 3 heavy muzzles. That was when Ron stopped pretending. You think that thing scares me? He hissed. Mila felt her throat tighten. She'd heard that tone before in small bursts, the moments Ron thought he could get away with being himself. It was the same tone he used when he corrected her in front of Anna, when he made jokes about her chair, when he called her difficult like it was a diagnosis. Mila kept her voice controlled. Go back to bed. Ron's hand rose and hovered above Cerber's nearest head, as if he might shove the dog aside. Cerber's rumble deepened. Still not a bark, not a snarl, just the sound of a locked door. Mila realized something then. Cerber wasn't reacting like a pet. He was reacting like a guard trained for one job. Hold the line. Ron looked past Cerber to Mila. Your mother thinks I'm patient, he said. She thinks I'm a saint for putting up with this situation. Mila's stomach turned cold. Leave. Ron's mouth twisted into a half-smile. You don't get to tell me what to do in my house. Mila's grip tightened on her phone. She didn't want to press the button too soon and have Ron yank it away. She wanted one clean move, one moment where she could prove what happened if anyone asked. Ron took another step. Cerber took another step. Now Ron was outside the bedroom, boxed out, forced into the hallway. And then Cerber did something Mila had never seen. All 3 heads turned. One toward Ron, one toward the floor, one down the hallway toward Anna's room. Like Cerber was mapping exits, measuring choices, calculating outcomes. Ron noticed and followed the 3rd head's gaze. Don't you dare wake her, he snapped, and for a split second, his voice was loud enough to slice through the quiet. Mila saw the mistake immediately, because footsteps answered. Not Anna's. Lighter, quicker, coming from the living room side. A small shape appeared behind Ron. Milo, the neighbor's orange tabby, who sometimes slipped to the pet door in the mudroom when the latch didn't catch. The cat padded into the hallway, tail up like it owned the place. Ron turned sharply. Get out, he started, annoyed, as if the cat was a problem. Cerber's curious head tracked the cat. The calm head stayed fixed on Ron. The watchful head stayed aimed down the hallway. Mila's heart thudded. The cat was a distraction. A chance. Ron bent slightly, as if to shoo Milo away with his foot. Cerber moved. Not an attack, nothing wild. Just a sudden, controlled step that forced Ron backward and away from Mila's doorway. Cerber's massive frame became a barrier in the hallway, angled so Ron had to choose. Push past the 3-headed dog or retreat. Ron's shoulders squared, anger swelling. Move, he said through clenched teeth. Cerber's rumble turned into a warning that vibrated in the floorboards. Mila's thumb hovered over the emergency button. She could hear her own breathing. She could hear Ron's. Then Ron did the thing Mila feared most. He reached into his pocket. Mila's mind flashed with worst-case images. Keys, a tool, something sharp. Something meant to intimidate, without leaving obvious marks. His hand came out holding a flashlight. He clicked it on and aimed it straight into Mila's room. The beam swept over her bed, her chair, her face. Mila flinched, eyes watering. The light wasn't about checking. It was about power, about making her feel exposed. "See," Ron said loudly now, voice coded in performance. "I'm just checking. Relax." Mila blinked against the light. Cerber's heads reacted instantly. One head turned away from the beam, one head stared into it, unblinking, and a third head turned toward Ron's wrist. The flashlight trembled slightly. For the first time, Mila noticed something else. Ron's breathing wasn't steady. It was fast, uncontrolled, like he wasn't sure of his own next move. "Turn it off," Mila said, louder than she meant to. Ron hesitated. And in that hesitation, Cerber took another slow step forward, forcing Ron back again, pushing him down the hallway inch by inch, away from Mila's room, away from the one place he could corner her. Ron's voice cracked with anger. "You think you're safe because of that freak dog." Mila swallowed hard, then said something she'd never dared to say out loud. "I am safe." Ron's eyes narrowed. The flashlight beam shook. His jaw clenched. Then, like a switch flipping, Ron clicked the flashlight off. The hallway fell dark again. Ron stared at Cerber, then at Mila, and Mila felt the moment sharpen. The line had been drawn. Ron had tested the boundary and failed. But men like Ron didn't accept failing. They planned. Ron backed up one step, then another, keeping his eyes on Cerber like he expected the dog to blink first. "Fine," Ron said, voice low. "We'll talk tomorrow." Mila didn't respond. She didn't give him the satisfaction. Ron turned and walked away. Cerber stayed in the doorway until the sound of Ron's footsteps faded into the kitchen. Only then did Cerber step back into Mila's room, standing beside her bed, three heads lifting as if to confirm. Threat moved away, but threat still exists. Mila exhaled slowly, shoulders shaking. The fear was still there, but now it had a shape, a timestamp, a sequence. 3 a.m., the doorknob, the flashlight, evidence in her memory. She looked at Cerber and whispered, "Thank you." The calm head blinked once. The curious head sniffed the air. The watchful head kept listening to the house. And that was when Mila heard the next sound, quiet, metallic, coming from the kitchen. A drawer opening. Mila's blood ran cold. Ron wasn't going to bed. Subscribe to the channel in a subtle way and stay with the story. Because what Ron reaches for next forces Mila to make the hardest decision of her life. The metallic sound came again, soft, deliberate. A drawer opening. Then a second one. Mila sat upright as much as she could, every nerve awake. Cerber's three heads pivoted toward the hallway in perfect sync. The watchful head locked on the direction of the kitchen. The curious head breathed in, slow and sharp. The calm head stayed near Mila, as if saying, "You first." Mila reached for her phone and opened the camera without turning on the flash. She didn't know what she was filming yet. She only knew that if she survived the next 5 minutes, she wanted proof that it happened. A floorboard creaked in the kitchen. Then another. Ron wasn't asleep. He was moving with purpose. Mila's mind raced through options that all felt too small. Shout for Anna. Call the police. Try to roll out of the room. Lock the door. She'd already learned that locking the door was just another way to tell Ron where to aim his anger. Cerber rumbled once, low, controlled, then went still again. Mila whispered, "Stay with me." Cerber didn't leave her side, but one of his heads angled toward the hallway like a sentry posted at a checkpoint. From the kitchen, Ron spoke, quiet, like he was talking to himself. "This is ridiculous." Mila heard glass clink, a jar, then the faint sound of a cupboard closing. Her stomach tightened. She didn't want to imagine what he was holding. The point was that he was doing something he didn't want anyone to see. Mila slid her phone into recording mode and hit audio, the screen dark. She set it on the pillow beside her, microphone facing the door. If Ron came in again, she wanted his voice on record. If he tried to rewrite the story tomorrow, she wanted a timeline that didn't depend on her memory alone. Footsteps returned. Closer now. Cerber's three heads lifted. The doorknob didn't turn this time. Ron didn't try the soft approach again. He spoke from the other side of the door, too calm, too measured. "Mila, open up." Mila's voice came out steady, even though she could feel her pulse in her ears. "Go back to bed." I'm not playing games. His words sharpened. Open the door. Mila glanced at Cerber and then at the small wedge by the door. She couldn't reach it from the bed without shifting dangerously. The chair was beside her, but getting into it quickly was not an option, not when fear made your hands shake. She did the only thing she hadn't done yet. She called Anna. 1 ring. 2. From the hallway, Ron's breath hitched. He realized what Mila was doing. Anna answered, groggy. Mila, what's wrong? Mila kept her voice low and clear. Mom, don't hang up. Ron is outside my door. He came in at 3 a.m. He's here again. Silence on the line, then the sound of sheets moving fast. Ron's voice tightened. Mila, stop. Mila spoke louder, firm. Stay on the phone. Anna's voice changed instantly, awake now, alert. Ron, what are you doing? Ron responded with the tone he used for neighbors, for strangers, for anyone he wanted to fool. Nothing. She's overreacting. I heard a noise. I checked. That's all. Mila kept the phone close. He opened my door. He shined a flashlight in my face. He won't leave. A pause, long enough to feel like a door closing somewhere in Anna's mind. Anna said, Ron! Step away from her door. Now! Mila heard Ron exhale, a controlled sound full of anger he didn't want to show. Anna, don't do this. Step away. Anna repeated, sharper. Or I'm calling for help. Ron muttered something under his breath. Too low for Mila to catch, but her phone caught it. The audio recording was still running. Then Ron's footsteps backed away, slow and resentful, like a man retreating only because witnesses had arrived. Anna stayed on the line. Mila, I'm coming. The hallway light flicked on. Mila saw a brightness bleed under her door. Cerber stood, tense but quiet, 3 heads aligned like a barrier. A moment later, Anna appeared in the doorway, hair messy, face pale, but eyes focused. She looked at Mila first, then at Cerber, then down the hallway where Ron hovered in the kitchen entrance, trying to look harmless. What's going on? Anna demanded. Ron lifted his hands, slightly, like this was all a misunderstanding. I told you. I heard something. I checked. She's scared because of the dog and her anxiety. You know how she gets. Mila's stomach clenched at how easily he used her situation as a weapon. Anna didn't look away from him. Do not talk about her like that. Ron's mask slipped, just for a heartbeat. Anna! Anna cut him off. I want you to sit at the table. Hand where I can see them. And you're not going near her room again. Ron's eyes narrowed. Are you seriously choosing that thing over me? Cerber's rumble rolled once, deep enough to vibrate the air, but he didn't move. He didn't need to. The warning was enough. Anna's voice dropped into something Mila had never heard before. Quiet authority. I'm choosing my daughter. Ron stared, calculating. Mila watched him the way you watch a storm change direction. Not relieved, not yet, but noting the shift. Ron's power depended on isolation, on silence, on everyone pretending the house was normal. Anna broke that spell. Mila said, Mom, I recorded everything. Ron's head snapped toward her. You what? Anna's face went very still. You recorded? Mila nodded. The hallway. His voice. I didn't know what else to do. Anna didn't hesitate. She stepped closer to Mila's bed, kept her back to the doorway like a shield, and said, You did the right thing. Ron tried to recover. Tried to laugh it off, but the sound came out thin. This is crazy. Anna pointed toward the living room with a single sharp motion. Go sit down. Ron looked at Cerber again, 3 heads, 3 sets of eyes, and for the first time his confidence failed completely, not because he believed in monsters, but because he understood something simple. Cerber wasn't scared of him, and neither was Anna anymore. Ron turned and walked to the table, moving like someone who had just realized the room was no longer his. Anna leaned close to Mila and whispered, We're not doing this alone. I'm calling someone right now. Mila's throat tightened, relief and grief mixing into one heavy ache. Is he going to hurt you? Anna squeezed her hand. No, because I'm not letting him stay. Cerber settled beside the bed again, calm head near Mila's knee. curious head watching Anna, watchful head tracking Ron's every movement from the doorway. Mila realized the hardest decision wasn't calling Anna. It wasn't recording. It wasn't even admitting fear. The hardest decision was believing she deserved safety. And tonight, at exactly 3 a.m., she finally did.